In the aftermath of the Chinese invasion of North Korea, the Chinese coming across the Yellow River and pushing the Americans below the 38th parallel in this terrifying retreat and rout, right, that is wreaking havoc in December and January 1950 and 1951. In the aftermath of this, the reporters are gathered and they are asking Truman, are you considering using the bomb in Korea? And Truman kind of steps into a trap here and he says, well, yeah, of course we're considering using it. But look, we don't want to use it. It's not good to use it. People should not have to die in this way. We don't want to use it. And then the reporters are like, oh, okay, you don't want to use it, but you are considering it. And he says, well, yes, it's always under consideration. It's one of our weapons, okay? And then the reporters push and they say, well, are you considering the use of it against civilian targets or military targets? And then Truman really steps in this time and he says, look, I'm not a military commander. I am the president, right? I don't get to make those decisions. We need that decision is made by a military commander in the field. This is false, right? Like, no, the president is the one that decides if and when you're using a nuclear weapon, okay? And it's crucial that that's the case because otherwise you can have a military coup, right? If some general like MacArthur can just drop a bomb whenever he wants and wherever he wants, okay? That's way too much power for one guy to have. Okay, and there's no accountability for that guy, right? Like the president is a civilian. He's not a career general, and he's accountable to the people, right? So that's crucial, right? Whereas a career general is not accountable to the people, is not elected. So in order to prevent like a Napoleon scenario, right, where you have this general seizing control and building a dictatorship, you have civilian control of the military. You have a popularly elected official commanding the army, all right? And so Truman has to come back and he has to tell all the world leaders, look, no, I was wrong. Actually, I just misspoke, right? No, MacArthur, no one general has the ability to start a nuclear war. And of course, the real question everybody's really asking him through this whole thing is, are you really ready and willing to start a global nuclear war with the Soviet Union? Because the Soviet Union is backing China and backing Korea. And if you're going to use a nuclear weapon in Korea, you better be ready to go into a full-scale World War III nuclear holocaust scenario with the Soviet Union. That's really what everyone's worried about and thinking about, and that's the origin of that question, really, okay? So this anxiety is mounting within the media. This anxiety is mounting within the American public, okay? And Korea itself is becoming an increasingly unpopular thing, even before the Chinese invasion, right? If we remember, like the initial troops had not done great in Korea in that summer of 1950, okay? And so there's already like some discontent with the way the war has been going. And Truman really intensifies this discontent with his leadership in regard to the war in particular, right around Thanksgiving of 1950, right before this Chinese onslaught begins. And it all has to do with this concert that he goes to. His daughter is a singer. And so he goes to the concert with his wife, Constitution Hall, and he's agitated because one of his best friends has just died. Okay, so he goes home, next morning wakes up, reads the Washington Post, and the music critic gives his daughter a very poor review. And Truman is outraged, and he writes impulsively this really aggressive letter to the journalist. And he basically threatens him, and he says, look, someday I hope to meet you, and you're going to need a new nose when I do. And you're going to need a lot of beefsteak cold packs to put on your eye, because you're going to have a lot of black eyes. Here they are, black eyes. Look, it's a threat, okay? And this reporter, he doesn't do anything, but they publish the letter in another newspaper front page, so everyone in America sees it and sees the president behaving in a kind of a reactionary, impulsive, a little bit childish maybe, but just aggressive. I mean, we can understand it, right? But a little maybe unpresidential here, and it just outrages people, especially those people who have lost sons in Korea. And Truman gets lots of letters like condemning this whole thing. And he gets one in particular from this father whose son has died, and the father has been sent a Purple Heart. And he sends the Purple Heart back to Truman with a letter. And the letter says, Mr. Truman, as you have been directly responsible for the loss of our son's life, you might just as well keep this emblem, the Purple Heart, on display in your trophy room as a memory of one of your historic deeds. One major regret at this time is that your daughter was not there to receive the same treatment that our son received in Korea. And Truman keeps this medal and this letter in his desk for years, okay? And it's just an indication of where things are going. Public opinion is turning away from Truman, away from the Korean War, and increasingly anxious about the possibility of nuclear war with not just Korea and China, but with the Soviet Union.